Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Mod and Slayer here. They're gonna call me Andres or by my nickname Andy. And today I'm here with Peter Shields, who managed to get his invite to the North American WCQ over the weekend at the Fargo Regional Qualifiers. Peter, would you care to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Peter Shields, fourth place at the Fargo Regional. It's my first ever invite to the NAWCQ, so I'm super excited, and I got it with one of my favorite decks I've ever actually picked up. So, and spoilers, it's Phantom Knights.
Definitely a really good pick for Phantom Knights, in my opinion. Do you have any shoutouts you want to give before we go ahead and get started?
Yeah, so first would be my buddy Ed, who playtests with me quite frequently, my locals, batter up games. And lastly, you for letting me hop on the channel today.
Uh, thank you, man.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, so why don't we go ahead and just start showing off the cards then?
Sure. So I guess I should actually quickly run through my match. So it was a 5 rounds. Round one was Dragon Link, which I won 2-0. Round two was Sword Soul. I won 2-1. Round three was Phantom Knights. It was technically a 2-0, but unfortunately connected. So we take those. Round four was again another Sword Soul, which was a 1-2. When you open Protos and then IO game, what are you gonna do? Oh, sorry, that was an 0-2. I didn't win a single game against the guy. No, my bad. And then round five was against Phantom Knights. I won. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can see that the Sword Soul matchup is definitely one of the hardest matchups, definitely with the Protoss being able to just call Dark, especially blindly because it's so good, because Dark being like
Yeah,
the most common um,
yeah,
base.
yeah, for sure. Especially because if you run the Shade Brigade in your deck, which I do, you don't really want to run Imperm, so you're not stopping it. So if it goes off, you're kind of like you're hoping you have a Fog Blade in hand, so you can hopefully like survive next turn. And if you don't, you might as well just scoop go game two.
Yeah. So were your matchups, were they what you expected to see? Anything out of the ordinary?
I thought I would see birds. I hate playing that against that deck, and luckily I didn't see it. So honestly, I can't complain. I have a lot of experience with the Sword Soul matchup. Phantom Knights, I know how to play the deck, so it's like whatever. Dragon, dragon.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised by the Dragon Link because that deck has kind of really fallen out of favor. Surprisingly, it's kind of been
Hmm.
just like power crept by Bird Up is what I've seen most Dragon Link decks
Yeah,
gravitate to. So I'm kind of surprised
I
by that one.
yeah, no, I 100% agree. I thought you would see it more. Like the deck is nothing you should sleep on, right? It still sets up a seal bounce, hot red, and I think like another thing, maybe at least tidying for sure. So I mean, you have two bounces, a float, and then a gate. So I mean, the deck is
Yeah.
still forced to reckon with.
And you fortunately did not go up against any invoked variants, which is good because I consider that matchup the hardest for this deck in my personal opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Like Winda is such a card. If you don't open up, like, you're out. You're kind of sitting there and hoping that they don't kill you next turn. But of course, they always have the Alistair, they always have the Invocation, and they always have the Dear Servant. So you're just losing that matchup anyway.
So did you want to go ahead and get into the monster lineup?
Yeah. So for the play, Torn Scale, Boot, two Cloak, a Gloves, Reeve. So in my opinion, this. Um,
Yeah, I see that this is pretty much the most commonly played standard lineup.
mhm.
Did you feel like you needed to cut anything or add anything, like maybe a second copy of gloves or cut the stained greaves, is what I've seen some people differentiate on, or possibly just only two copies of boots?
Oh, never two copies of Boots. Absolutely not. And I will never cut Greaves. I think this card is super. It's so nice. Like if you open scales in this, you can just go combo and be fine. And then if you want to like get into a levy or a brute sword, you search this out with the cloak, and you can still special because then you probably trigger your torn scale and blah blah blah. So I'll never cut this. I'll never cut this down. I think two is good for cloak. I've seen people play three, and including myself. as well, but ever since I moved it down to 2, I've never looked back.
All right, definitely, because you can also just recycle the cloak with Levier. So in reality,
Exactly. Like you do that, and then you summon out the Levier, and then you bring back the cloak, get the pump, and then use it for whatever extra moss. And that way, next turn you still have a cloak torn scale follow up, which I try to aim to do um, after my turn 1.
no, definitely.
So the,
Yep. Yep. That's a good
those are the
explanation
peak.
on the Phantom Knight lineup.
Next we have the old faithful triple tour guide, Graf and Seer. This card is, my gosh, the top deck. My last round against Phantom Knight, and we were in a pretty simplified game state, and they were able to establish a Zeus with one use of Zeus, and I just had to top deck something good to kind of force it out and get certain cards off the field and into the graveyard. And I top decked Tour Guide, and I said, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing!" Like no joke, it was an anime. As he was like making Zeus, I thought to myself, if there is one time I need my deck not to fail me, it is now. Like no joke, word for word. I thought that. I drew Tour Guide, and I said, "I won." So um, I will never cut Tour Guide unless the Brave Engine's coming out. I haven't done too much testing. I haven't done gating, so it might come out for that. But honestly, I would probably just cut extender for that and then keep it. But again, it requires some testing.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I know Tour Guide is really increases the ceiling for this deck because it essentially can get you a one card combo for Rusty, Appaloosa,
Mm-hmm.
plus your Phoenix Enforcer. I've actually done a collab with Julio, who was your opponent you played actually
Yeah, I
last
played him
week,
final round.
which I actually saw that match personally and was pretty hyped about it to see
Yeah.
two close friends of mine actually facing off against each other, which was pretty funny to me.
Oh yeah, I saw he was in the tournament. I was like, please don't let me play him. And then in my final round, I'm like, okay, I need to win this to get my invite potentially. And I checked my opponent. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So it was a really, like I said, it was a whole anime that entire duel. It was probably the most fun I actually had that entire tournament. Was that
Yeah.
match.
Did the so I also noticed that a lot of Phantom Knight lists have just been cutting Tour Guide straight up this
Mm-hmm.
format. Do you feel like do you feel like they might be a little bit wrong, or has it just been working out good for you so far?
I think deck building is total personal preference for the most part. Obviously there are certain cards you definitely play, should play, or things that people want to play because they enjoy it. Um, but I think Tour Guide is insane in this deck, right? It's like you said, one combo. Um, it's hand trap bait. Like you normal summon it, probably going to eat something. Most of your other plays are going to go through without any problem. Um, Obviously, if you top deck it, it's an insane top deck. You can summon out, even if you use these already, you can summon out another one yourself, and just go from there. I personally will not cut it, at least this format. To each their own.
All right, yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. A lot of benefits to Tour Guide that people might overlook sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're moving into the extenders now. With the tour guide, of course, we play the 2 Kagemusha Knight, 2 Danger Monsters, 2 Psychic, and a Forward. Again, Kagemusha, it just pairs so well with tour guide. Her bodyguard, I love to say. Dangers are insane. Like, honestly, my favorite combo in the deck is Normal Summon Scales and Pitch a Tsuchiyoko. It's just so free. um,
Did you
yeah, and then, of course, Psychics are no big deal. Telly jump forward is just a body on board if you ever just open.
And then, so with your extenders, I've also seen a lot of people cut the Kagamuchi Knight as well. Did it ever,
Mm-hmm.
did it kind of attribute to you losing this Sword Soul matchup in a way because they go Protos called Dark, and then you can special summon out the Kagamuchi Knight?
Not that I can remember, but honestly, like I said, if they call Protos, and if you don't have some sort of way to like disrupt them on their turn, you can have like as many as you want in the deck. You're not getting it kind of walling up and then delaying the ball. So I had no issues with it. And I know some people say it's kind of tricky. It's like whatever, but I mean at 3 it is like I used to play it as well. And then again, since I cut it to 2, which was pretty hard for me to do, I'm not gonna really like, especially with tour guides. But ever since I cut it to 2, I'll back.
Okay, that's understandable because it can get cloggy when you play it at 3 because you can only, special summon out one of it because you can only activate one trigger effect in hand at a turn.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and then with the danger monsters as well, did you find any
Mhm.
conflictions such as having to use certain hand effects and then possibly discarding a brick, or did it mostly synergize pretty well with the deck?
No, I think for the most part, it synergized very, very well. Like I said, when Torn Scales pitch any one of these major monsters, it's fantastic. I love it. If I've ever had to use their effect, somehow my opponents are just really good and just snipe it out, so I don't really have to. I didn't have to worry about them sniping brick that. But even if it did, I would just have to remember to play around it, play different. So what I like about PK is pretty much it's like a toolbox deck. Whatever you need it to do, it can probably do. So
Oh
that's kind
yeah,
of how I built the deck instead of like talents and stuff like that. I thought I'd just play. It's like okay, go ahead and keep going.
oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I think that was a good analysis on the extenders.
Yeah, so those guys. And we are playing the DPE engine. Play the Celestial. This is not. This is actually surprising for most people. Um, I just one don't own Dasher yet, so get it, and then two, the amount of times that I've summoned Plasma on like a bird player or a sword soul player has just been right. They have the classic Baron and bring out 3 monsters. They're kind of just using their on tribute them Plasma, take their Baron, play out of your graveyard. And again, one time at local bird player they had a whatever ensemble I think is the bouncing bird, and then one other negate in the form of some sort of monster. I said normal summon boots, special something, psychic wielder, something else. They let everything go because they're just waiting for the straight monster, and I tribute them, summon plasma, and the guy's face dropped. He was just like, "What?" I said, "I'm gonna take your." Oh, it was UFD. So I took his UFD, beat over the sun, banished like a set of fog blade, and he couldn't play. Like it's insane.
Yeah, I can definitely see how plasma can be one hell of a floodgate, catching a lot of people off guard because it's really unexpected. For this deck, really, you only really see plasma being played in something like Drytron, but that's just because of
Mm-hmm.
their Drytron restrictions. But I
Right.
can see like how plasma could be a viable option for this deck just because of how it can easily just spam level 3 monsters on the field.
Exactly. And like when you draw, I know Dasher's like special summon effect. There's never really a time you're really having that issue. Like I've drawn for turn, say, well, so generally at the end of my turn, my hand is right. We'll set up the board and call it good, and then I draw for turn. Like even if I draw, say, a Cog, I don't. I'll normal summon it. It's fine because I have follow up in the graveyard, and I can just use Celestial to banish this and Plasma and draw 2, and just go from there. Yeah, you might draw normal summon, but cards in the graveyard still have some sort of board, and then let's go for them. So I don't think the special summoning effect of Dasher is important deck.
No, yeah, for sure, for sure. That's just
So.
great input on that.
And then the only hand trap I played was 3 nib.
Three nib.
I guess yeah, 3 nib. I guess I can say going second like that as well. So 3 nib, 3 droplet. Ash is kind of meh this format. I was really like scared of cutting Ash because it's a level 3. Kind of synergizes well with the deck, of course. But I'm really glad I did. I put in nib. That's what pretty much won me the Dragon deck or Dragon matchup. I think I nibbed my first Sword Soul opponent. And even if then it just baits out the Baron to say, okay, now I have one. Of course, droplet is droplet. It's yeah.
Did you
Um,
feel like six going second cards were enough? Did you see it quite a bit throughout this tournament?
surprisingly, yes. Aside from my Dragon Link matchup and the Sword Soul matchup, I never saw Nib again. Um, I think throughout the entire tournament, and then Droplet I saw a bunch. This was fantastic. It was great. My opponent set up my first Phantom Knight opponent set up the Scythe lock. He went to activate deep, so I drew for turn and I top decked the Forbidden Droplet, and he went DPE and I just chained the Droplet, so I just got rid of that whole ordeal. I didn't, and I threw and played, and I think I think I killed that, or whatever. He couldn't play after that anyway, so um, it was fantastic. Would I increase more? I don't know. I don't think the format really needs it. Like everything seems relatively fair, other than the birds that can just keep on going and going. But I think Nib still takes care of some of the. I like this having the six and it's easy side out. For like going first, I'll probably cut these. Sometimes I cut these. It just depends on.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. Yep. You have your side deck to also just help you out for going second cards.
Yeah, exactly. So, um,
Yep.
place going second card and move on. Fancy about the next. These guys, Fusion Destiny, GP. Some people play two. I initially started playing two, and then I realized, why do I not want to see this card? Hello, play it. Free discard if you need to. Uh, cards, cards bonkers. Ridiculous. And, it's also good side out. Oftentimes when I went second, I'd side out two copies, which is kind of weird because you want like some sort of like board presence going second. But I just thought if I replace these with other like go second cards, should be fine to get through my. And it seemed to work.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. Definitely could you could side maybe a copy or two of it out for hand traps, and you definitely want to play three of it because it's just so busted.
It is, yeah, absolutely. Then the last three spells we played two E-Telly and why not search in
Yep.
your deck, and then if Konami puts these to three, that's a huge mistake. Like, there's no reason for that, honestly. Um, I don't even know if I'd actually play the third one. Think about it, because I don't know. But again, that requires to deal with it. As of now, it's at two, and we're play it.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I agree with that one.
And then lastly, the traps play two Fogblade, Wing, and a Brigadine.
Okay.
Fairly straightforward. I know some people play a third Fogblade. Again, I used to play a third, cut it down to two. In the beginning, I kind of missed it because I wasn't used to it, but now that I've gotten better at like managing my resources, I have never.
Would you ever see yourself adding in the third copy of Fogblade in the future, or not really?
Um, I don't know. That's a good question. I think I don't. Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't think so. I think I'd rather just keep the extenders, keep the two, and, and call it good.
And I believe that's the end of your main deck, right?
Yep, main deck 40 cards, 27 monsters, 3, 6, 9 spells, and then 4. Yeah, because that's 13. Yep, so 40 card main deck, 4 traps, 27 monsters.
How did you feel
Mm.
about the 40 card main deck? Because I've seen some people kind of argue that you might want to up the number of cards in your main deck to avoid drawing the bricks, but
Hmm.
what's your take on that?
Um, Again, if it works for them, awesome. But for me personally, I found that 40 in this particular deck is fantastic. I play enough extenders. I don't really need to worry about it. You get your casual bricks of drawing Seer, drawing Graph, drawing unplayables, but that just happens with deck.
Yeah, so I bet your thinking probably was like, I'm just going to run 40 anyway. If I brick, it was going to happen anyways, so I want to see Fusion Destiny as much as possible, right? So just play the 40.
Yeah, I just want to see full con. I just want to see two level 3 monsters as much as possible, which you could argue increasing the number, you would bump up the extenders, but honestly, I can't really think of too many lyrics. You can play the beat cent.
And then also, you didn't
I
run
don't
a
know what else.
Mystic Mine out as well because a lot of decks, can run Mystic Mine like Invoked, Striker,
hmm
and the Bird Up deck can especially run Mystic Mine very well. Did you not really see a need to run a Mystic Mine out?
I just said if I play Mystic Mine, I guess we'll see him again in game two. Which was funny because my buddy played in the same regional as I did, and he got paired up against Mystic Mine. And luckily, it was late enough where I had a good enough record. I wouldn't see that player,
Mm-hmm.
but I was just like, wow, I got lucky with not playing.
All
Would
right.
I? Yeah, I'm not sure if I would add one into the main. I probably wouldn't. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I would.
All right.
I
I can see that
yeah
because it can ruin the consistency of the deck as well. So that valid argument.
yeah. But, moving on to the extra deck, pretty straightforward for minus a couple things. We have a Link Spider, we have Phoenix, Beanie, Verte, P, Unity, Apo, and Max. Those are the Link monsters. This one you need. I actually tested a week without the Link Spider, and it was fine. It was no big deal. But then once I put it back in, I just found it so much more helpful that yeah, that's got to stay. Because I originally playing the UFD package, substitute for the Phoenix Spider.
Mm-hmm.
Phoenix didn't see this weekend. Link Spider, obviously, of course, and everything else is, I mean, I guess pretty standard for the most part. Link,
Yeah, I agree with the Link Spider. Synergize as well with the Nib token as well as the Shade
mm-hmm.
Brigadine.
Yeah,
Did the IP come up quite often for you? A lot of lists don't run it, but I see that you
yeah.
have it.
It's I don't know if it came up this weekend, but it has come up a bunch of times at locals, right? You'll end on the P,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can either pivot into a unicorn or you can pivot into Apo. It just depends. Very rarely am I making Apo on my funny, unless I can like suspect like they have a nib or something. Like if I go second, if I have the chance, I'll make the Apo, but going first, I never. I generally do not make Apo. I'll just make the master, have a unicorn play or yeah, yeah, play.
No, yeah, I can definitely agree with that. With the Appaloosa not being that good this format because of everybody playing like chalices and perms.
Yeah,
It's just not really that worth it to put that many resources unless you're playing against something like Drytron. But I can see that.
right. Yeah, no, exactly. And I found that same issue with the UFD package. Put in all the resources. Granted, it would get recycled, right? They just go to the graveyard, but then you make a B and a breakstorm just to make it, and you're already out of some sort of recursion,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which wasn't good. But speaking of that, we play two breaksword, Levy, a Raiders Knight, Ark Rebellion, and of course
Mm-hmm.
X.
So pretty much, I noticed your Xyz's lineup is pretty standard aside from the Raiders Knight and Ark Rebellion.
Yeah,
I saw that package a lot more before this deck was like meta relevant. Um,
right.
but what made you decide to like keep it in? Because I see like pretty much 90% of lists run the Downward Zeus package as opposed to the Ark Rebellion package.
So like I said, this deck is very toolboxy. You can pretty much do whatever kind of needed to do. I want it to be able to kill my opponent. Obviously, you have the axe code, talker, great, and certain circumstances. However, the Raiders Knight Ark Rebellion sometimes better in other situations. Uh, there was a time I round two Sword Soul opponent. It was game one. I set up my board. He cracked through it, set up a Protos, um, set up some other stuff. I was able to keep playing. He kept bouncing my Fog Blade to hand for whatever. I said, okay, thank you for this. So and I just kept setting it. So at one point, I negated the Protos when he activated the effect. He outed the rest of my board, and then it was my turn, and he had like one interruption, and I was able to bait that out with something. And then I just had 2 level 3s, summon a break sword, and then I was able to bring out a Raiders Knight, and then bring out the Ark Rebellion, and he had like something like 4 monsters. Protos. He had like the big Sword Soul, Synchro, and like 2 other like huge dudes. And I just said summon Ark Rebellion and attack over his monk, and it was just a huge comeback. And I killed so many people this including my final game. Like I said, when I top decked Tour Guide, I was able to bait out his. Had a fog blade in the graveyard, brought back Rust, summoned out the scale Rusty cloak, cloak at boots, special that, summon out the break sword, use break sword to pop the uh, Zeus, and then Rusty brought back not Rusty, sorry, the break sword brought back the 2 materials, overlaid it into Raiders Knight, summoned under Ark Rebellion, and because I did damage earlier that game, I had exact game with the 3000 Rusty.
Oh yeah, I definitely remember that. I believe, yeah, your last game against Julio, you had exactly game with the Ark
Yep,
Rebellion.
exactly. And I think I've people don't expect it. Like I said, I've killed way too many people um, with this engine to ever cut it. Like I don't think I will ever cut this from the extra deck. Like regardless, never will.
No, definitely, it's a really strong OTK enabler. Do
Yeah.
you see yourself ever looking towards or did you ever consider like other alternative extra deck monsters like Rhapsody and Berserk, Time Thief or Doer, or Evil Swarm Nightmare even?
Yeah, so honestly, I think the extra deck is pretty solid. However, I think the one cuttable card is Phoenix. Like there have been times where I've been under TC Boo, but I've been able to get to Cherubini, and because it's a fairy, you can bring out the Seer, and then you can link the Beanie and the Seer off for Unicorn, and then chain block the Unicorn to get rid of the TC Boo by making it chain link 1, and then Seer target Cherubini for chain link 2. And so I just don't think Nightmare Phoenix is that necessary. And I think I might cut it for a redoer moving forward. I just think it has some good utility. The Shade Brigadine on it, the bounce. Yeah, I think that was the only thing I would probably cut to try out. Other than that, I think it performed amazingly, and I summoned literally everything other than.
All right, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, Phoenix is kind of, at least for me, it's always just been kind of, it comes in and out of the extra deck sometimes for me as well.
Yeah. Side deck.
Hmm.
This is the hardest part for building again for this event, just because it's kind of hard. I don't want to side in too many cards and like overclog it, and too little doesn't do anything. So I try to aim for siding out 6 or 7 cards,
Hmm.
and to do that effectively, I have to build my side deck accordingly. So I think we played Lancia, we played Double Droll, played triple Cosmic Cyclone, triple Lightning Storm, Anti Spell, and of course everyone's card IO. Overall, these did great against the PK matchup, specifically against Julio. Game 2, I set up my board and then I Lancia'd him, so then he couldn't do anything. And then I opened it for third turn and I Lancia'd him, and he's pretty much T set effectively. He like set 2 back row and a monster. No, he set 3 back row and a monster. Um, and Lancia was just able to end his crack his interruption. And yeah. Droll and Lockbird was for the bird matchup. Like I said, I hate playing the deck for that. Invoked as well. It hits that.
Hmm.
And I actually never sided this in. Again, I didn't play those particular matchups where I needed it, so never brought it. Cosmic Cyclone. I used to play Twin Twisters, but now I was expecting to see at least one Scythe deck, and behold, I saw 2. So I played Cyclone. I also sided it in against the Sword Soul matchup because of um, great. What is it? The Blackout. I can play through 2 monster negates, or at least I guess a monster negate and a negate. But then when you start popping my resources, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So I sided it in. It's funny because in first Sword Soul matchup, he unfortunately just bricked and he set one and passed, and I was able to just do for turn. I activated Cosmic Cyclone, got rid of it, and killed him through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would probably keep this going forward. Lightning Storm, I never cited it in. I don't think I'm going to play it for the rest of this format. There've been too many. I think evenly matched is just better this format because again it hits the back row decks. It's going to hit the combo decks as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you can hit like an Omni Negate, just hit them with the even void damage protection. Um, I don't know. So I would probably play that over the lane. And then Anti-Spell Fragrance and IO, they went first, expecting board break. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think if it actually mattered this weekend. I know it's mattered in the past at like locals and other, but I think this weekend, really. So
Did you ever find that the Cosmic Cyclones just kind of conflicted with Lancia being cited and against you?
no. Luckily this time not. Thinking about it now, it could, but luckily since it's a quick play, they just Lancia. If they have something on board, just Cosmic it, just Cosmic, just to get rid of it. Like I know Julio flipped anti-spell on me, luckily. Had um, a quick play spell. What was it? Oh, it was emergency teleport, and I was just able to change it. So like I know Pack has said before that he values gainable spell cards rather than just like Storm. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
Cosmic Stone and Twister are so powerful. And I 100% having a quick play spell in specifically this format, we anti spell and I pass it. And I never ran in with land before. I don't so you just the act.
And then with the three anti-spell, one Imperial Order, that actually used to be kind of like a lineup I did last format, just because I would get so annoyed with people triple tacticing my Dragoon, just burning me for game. Did you feel like three anti-spell, one IO was ever overkill, or did it work out for you for the most part?
Actually, it worked out really well. So there was another regional I played, and I did I think 2 weeks ago as well. At least from the recording of the video, I had only played two anti-spell and one IO because again I had that mentality I wanted to side in 3 to 6 cards. Worked out well playing this, but there were so many times I missed having that extra one and putting that in and testing it at locals. It's super cool. There were times where I flipped anti-spell, striker players set four and passed. Um, and when it got back to their turn, they flipped a spell card, and I had IO as well. Like it was unfair to be honest, and they weren't going to do anything about it. But I don't think it's overkill. I think it's kind of like I said, because when I go first, generally these are the only cards I side in. Like I side out the three nibs, and then maybe a droplet, and then depending on the matchup, right? Maybe I'll side out all droplets and only play the three Lancia, and then these four, K or
Right, and then also another thing is that right now the Scythe lock variant of the deck is like the most popular version of the deck right now, but I see that you're not even maining or side decking it. Did you consider playing that package? Do you feel like that package just requires too much resources and it's too vulnerable for hand traps of some sort?
yeah, so I know every time I open full combo and I just set like an extra card, right? Say it'd be a Fog Blade, my opponent would be like, okay, so that's a set artifact scythe. And I was like, yeah, sure, buddy, it's an artifact scythe. So they'll just play like kind of cautiously and they'll be surprised when I don't have it and I flip a second Fog Blade. I just don't play because I personally don't want to play the card. I don't want to luck game like that. I like to play the game a little bit more, but I understand why it's so strong. Why not take a flip that? You pop it with either Rusty Effect back and Seize Monster or having PE pop it. Um, but I don't think moving forward I would put it in. I mean, have I considered it? Yes. But I opted against it, and I still wouldn't play it. Just for my own personal.
No, I can agree with that. I mean, even right now in the version I'm playing, I don't run it just because I feel like it's too vulnerable to hand traps, and it also
Hmm.
hasn't been topping recently. Such as if you look at the remote dual YCS results as well as the most recent, well, I guess not really most recent, but some of like past online tournament results, is that it just hasn't been doing too well because people are just over prepared for it now, such as
Yeah,
you know, the Cosmic Cyclones, the Called by the Graves, the DD Crows. Like, there's too much going against for it to be doing well right now, is what I've been noticing, is why it hasn't been topping recently.
right. And I think like if you're playing a card or like a certain variation of a deck to auto win using that particular strategy, it's very easy to target where to stop it. Like some decks like don't mind playing through a fog blade or two, but if they can stop the Dagda from resolving, then you just have to play through the fog blade pop. You can maybe it's still tough to play against, but at least you can, play the game. I think having not having that in my deck helped it even more than if I were to have it in the deck.
Right, and then it's also possibly another brick that you have to add towards your deck, which your deck already runs quite, the deck itself runs quite a few bricks already at that point.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that is my deck. Do you have any other questions?
Um, go ahead and run through my notes here. Um, no, actually, I think you got straight to the point in all your answers. You covered your deck, your card choices very well. Did you have any last minute shoutouts you wanted to give, or anything else you wanted to touch bases upon?
No, I don't think so. I just want to say thank you again for letting me be on the channel, and yeah, that was it.
All right, everyone. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for having Peter, for you being on here, Peter. Peace.